management department here, teaching entrepreneurship this term. And it's my great pleasure to welcome Jim Treleaven and Fred McMurray from Spears to give this presentation on the exciting leading-edge technology of syndicated peer-to-peer networking. And for you to hear kind of firsthand what's going on in this exciting space. Besides being CEO of Spears, Jim Treleaven is president and CEO of his own ViaStrategy group, which advises CEOs on growth and turnaround strategies. And it has affiliates throughout the U.S. and in 3 countries as well. He's had a successful career in industry as the CEO of both public and private technology companies, ranging in size from $40 million to $500 million. Most recently, he was chairman and CEO of Catalyst International, a NASDAQ-listed supply chain software company. He also served as CEO of Global Commerce Zone and Visual Intelligence Corp, and as president of the Enterprise Solutions Division of GEAC D&B Software. He served as managing partner at Battelle Venture Partners, the venture unit of the Battelle Memorial Institute. He's held management, engineering, sales, and marketing positions at several leading companies, including IBM and Chase Manhattan Bank. He also served as president of DeVry University, Chicago here, serving 15,000 students in undergrad and graduate programs in business and technology. Jim has his BS degree in computer engineering from Case Western Reserve, his MBA from the University of Minnesota, and PhD in management from Case. He's taught at Case and has lectured at several other leading universities, and he currently serves on the board of directors of Tech America, the Illinois Technology Association, and serves as chair of the National Computer Graphics Association. He serves on the advisory boards of the Weatherhead School of Management at Case, the Morris Graduate School of Management at Robert Morris University, and the Brennan School of Business at Dominican University. And he's also served on several corporate boards. Before I have Jim come to the podium, I want to point out the co-founder and chief technology officer of Spears, and who is also the chief technology officer of Mediavine Marketing, and the founder of Mandatech LLC, and co-founder of Link Local Network, who you may have already participated in. If you haven't been interviewed yet, be sure to go to the table in the exhibition area and tell us what you think of today's Net Day and how you're enjoying it. Fred's an entrepreneur, speaker, and platform blogger on social media topics for small business. He's co-developed a digital dominance index, which is a part, you'll see, of Spears methodology, which measures the growth of a digital social media presence. In addition, he was an early adopter of LinkedIn in 2003, which forms the basis for Link Local Network and is the trajectory of creating their own platform now that's leading into Spears, and you'll see how that works. These networks he's developed have grown to over 400,000 connections. He continues advanced research on the development of syndication peer networks for small business and nonprofits. Fred has over 25 years of technology experience, which includes director of technology positions at both Triad Foods Group and Creekstone Farms. And interestingly, I didn't know this, he developed advanced tracking systems for the first in-plant mad cow testing facility in the USA. So, the leading edge of technology development for Fred. So, with no further ado, we've got Fred on the camera, and Jim, welcome. Glad to have you here at NEIU.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody. I won't take too much time before you get to hear from Fred, but everyone here is relatively young, so I assume everyone here has used the internet. How old is the internet? Well, you know, they make fun of us old guys, you know, because we're not supposed to know how to program the VCR and all that kind of stuff. But part of it's true. But I first used the internet 41 years ago, and it's 40 plus years old. This was about 15 years before Al Gore invented it. So how many of you use social media? Is there anybody who doesn't use social media? I figured that's true. Now, I signed up for social media as an old guy so I can keep track of my kids. But let me ask you some more pointed questions about your use of social media. How many of you get more than 100 emails, Facebook messages, LinkedIn messages, tweets, or any of that? More than 100 a day? Not too many. I get 250 emails a day, not counting the other stuff. But, so is there anyone who gets more than 200? More than 300? Okay. Anyway, that's the challenge that we're going to talk about today, is basically the information overload, both in and out, that's really being caused by the advent of all of these popular social media platforms today. And it's overwhelming. 20 years ago, some of my research was all on information overload. It was sort of cognitive science as it applies to information technology. Believe me, the amount of information 20 years ago, which we considered to be a serious problem, was nothing compared to today. So how are we going to deal with all this? Actually, how am I going to deal with advancing the slides? That's not it. Okay. And our focus today and the technology that we're going to talk about is really focused at allowing individuals, business professionals, and small to medium-sized businesses use social media much more effectively than they've been able to in the past. Now, large companies have started to adopt social media in a very significant way to do primarily two things. One is to generate revenue, to sales, to new customers, and to retain existing customers. The second one, actually, and some of you may have been exposed to this, is big companies use social media to actually allow people to do self-support easier. And it's not just for technology products, but using social media so that their user community, for whatever it is they're selling, can actually provide support to one another more easily. But to do that, big companies spend millions of dollars. Literally millions, more than millions of dollars to do that. Have very large staff that support those efforts. So what do small businesses do, or individual business professionals? They don't have millions of dollars. And this is the solution that we're going to talk about today. So social media has had only limited adoption. 40% use social media in any form, and that 40% really doesn't use social media in any significant way. 25% of nonprofit organizations with even smaller budgets, chambers of commerce, to some extent universities, and others use social media in any significant way. But 80% of the Fortune 100 do use social media, as I talked about. Next, but it does represent the same revenue opportunity for small and medium businesses and business professionals that it does for those large companies. So how are those small companies without million-dollar budgets going to use it? Here's the challenge. The social media landscape is very dynamic, and as a result, it's very difficult to understand. How many social media platforms do you think, well, generally widely available social media platforms, do you think are out there today? How many? A lot. Yeah, that's a good guess, right? A lot is correct. How many? More than 10? More than 50?
Are you talking about the successful ones, or do you want to see
Just social media?
Yes, well, we do have to argue about what's successful.
Yeah.
But yes, any kind. Either currently or soon to be successful or never to be successful. But there's close to 400.
And that doesn't include the industry-specific ones.
Right. So there's a lot of noise out there, and how you deal with it. Speaking of noise, okay. There's a lot of noise out there. information overload is overwhelming. I really do get more than 300, 400, 500 messages a day. How do you deal with that? I mean, a lot of it's not substantive, but a lot of it is. And so it's a real challenge. And if you want to effectively get your message out, you have to use, not all 300 and some platforms, but you have to use more than a few. And that's a real challenge. The time to do that is overwhelming. Someday I will write a book about how to manage all these 400 messages a day. I have a goal every morning by 6:30 to have an empty inbox. I get that some days, not too many days, but it's hard. And few small businesses have any time or resources to really deal with that. So here's the solution. The solution is to use a layer of technology on top of all these platforms that makes that whole process easier for you in terms of consolidating input and propagating content. So we call that content syndication. The first major area is platform consolidation. That is there a way that, and I'll use one example and you'll see it in a minute, that I could, for example, develop a profile and have it set me up on multiple platforms? Is there a way that I can create a single message and have it go out over Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and whatever else there is? And if I can do that, that will really help if I have a single place to go to manage all of this information. The second one is the notion of syndication peer networks. There's a term that's out there now, it's being used a lot, called the content supply chain. And that is, how can a firm or an individual take content that they've developed, whether it's a blog, a paper, content that they've seen somewhere else that they think is interesting, how do they get that content out to the relevant either marketplace, community, friends and family, whatever it might be? How do you get that content out effectively to all of those people? And that the term around that is been called the content supply chain. So how do we do that? The way to do that, and you'll see that in a minute, a real-world example, is syndication peer networks. That is, if you have a message that you want to get out and you have a number of Twitter followers, for example, or people on Facebook, and you get that message to them and then they propagate. You tell 10 friends, they tell 10 friends, they tell 10 friends. Although it's automated now. You can get that message out to a lot of people much more effectively and much more quickly. So the benefits of this are pretty straightforward, and this is from a business perspective. Sort of works for individuals as well. But you can definitely increase revenue. If your goal, for example, is to generate traffic to your website as a company, this way will generate significantly, actually, you'll see a great example of this in a minute, hugely increased traffic to your website, which if your website generates revenue, let's say every 100 visitors becomes a customer. If you multiply the number of visitors by 10-fold or 100-fold, your revenue will go up commensurately. Also, reduce marketing expenses. Use of social media is a very inexpensive marketing tool relative to, even relative to internet advertising, for example, or other forms of advertising. It's a very cost-effective way to get your marketing message out, to develop your brand in the marketplace very effectively. Because content is a great way, another goals hour session, content is a great way to establish your brand. So you can greatly reduce marketing expense because the platform itself is relatively inexpensive, but if you can reduce the time it takes every day to do that, propagation of content and syndication of content across all of those platforms, the cost savings are significant. So that all sounds great, but we have an actual real-world example that Fred will now walk you through to show you how all of that works.
So how many people are interested in tax accounting? All right, raise your hands if you think tax accounting is exciting. Yeah, that's what I expected. Raise your hand if you'd rather take an ice pick in an eye than listen to an hour on the ins and outs of tax accounting.
I'm not sure about that.
No. How many hours a year do you spend on a tax accounting site? more than, let's say, how many of you spend more than 10 hours a year on a tax accounting site? How many of you have ever gone to a tax accounting site? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so we have a tax accountant here, very small tax accountant. Just if you take some of these numbers, because I really want you to understand how boring tax accounting is and how big it is. If you Google tax accounting, you get almost 72 million hits. There's 110,000 monthly searches for tax accounting. According to, I don't know, the AICPA, American Institute for Certified Public Accountants, there were 1.3 million tax accountants in the U.S. in 2008. So the question becomes is how does a small tax accounting firm drive traffic to the front of their front door without spending millions of dollars? Anybody got an idea?
Social media.
All right, well, that's the given one, but anything else besides social media? Yeah, see that?
I was thinking like the way that when you, the accessibility on the search engine. So
Okay.
when you,
SEO.
the options for when you look up something, it comes out. Yeah. the
Hit
sites.
high on Google.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you do that? Besides, you can use PPC or pay-per-click,
Right.
which, given that all those search results, that's a huge amount of money. What you can use the magic of SEO, but again, now you're talking about a large amount of money. So, what other ways can you do it? Yeah, that's kind of what we thought too. So, what we did was we built them a new site and we made it social media friendly. Because of course, if you can go click on a button like here and follow them on Facebook or like it or tweet it, you're much more likely if for some reason you're up late at night, you're an insomniac and you need to go to sleep, you go to a tax site, you can actually send it out to your friends, post it to your Twitter account. And amazingly enough, if you do a Twitter search on accounting, well, this dude now pops up. It's really close to the top. So the first step is building a site that's social media friendly. If you don't do that, there's no way people are going to share it. The second is adding content. Now, Jim spoke about this before. Now, you got to add content because if the site doesn't change, then the Google spiders don't come back, and people don't. There's only so much you can do if the site's not changing. So you have to. We built in a blog, and we also built in regular articles, so you could go in and get. There's a reason to go back there. So you got to have it social media enabled. You have nice YouTube recommendations up there. This last check that had over 10,000 views. Yeah, not bad for YouTube. We also, at that point, one of the things that we haven't really talked about is measuring your digital presence. Okay, how many people have more than 1,000 Twitter followers? Nobody. Well, I know Mike does. No one's got more than 1,000.
I don't have Twitter.
I'm trying to figure out how to do it.
So how many would you, I asked this, how many, all right, so let's go with Facebook. How many have more than 500 friends on Facebook? One. Just one. Two. How many people are on LinkedIn? Okay, so how many of you have that 500 plus, more than 500 connections on LinkedIn? Yeah, I know you do. What about YouTube? Who's got a YouTube channel? Okay, so how many of you have posted more than 50 videos? All right. So how many followers do you think I have on Twitter? Is it less than 1,000? Okay, more than 5,000?
Yeah.
More than 10,000? I'm pushing 19,000. And within the group, I'm considered number 3. How many would you say I got on Facebook? More than 500?
Yeah.
More than 1,000?
Yeah.
More than 2,000?
Probably.
More than 3,000?
Yeah. Sure.
And about 3,700. On LinkedIn, again, I'm the behind one. He's around 3,500, and I'm just pushing 2,900 connections on LinkedIn. Yeah, I know. Isn't it amazing? We've got almost 200 videos posted on YouTube. We've got over 20,000 page views. and that's in a little bit over a year. So you can build your own audience huge, but you still run into these issues of even if you've got a huge audience, you've got to put content out, and that takes a lot of time, as we'll see. But the first thing you got to do if you're building a digital presence is measure your presence. So when we started, Daniel was getting about 45,000 hits a month to his site, but he had no presence. So we put together a 2-person syndication network. By the time we were done, we had over 25,000 connections in LinkedIn. We had over 8,000 connections in Facebook, over 80,000 page views in YouTube, and this one is the killer, 100,000 connections in Twitter. Yeah, pretty cool, isn't it? Now, just so you can see, what ends up happening is this is about where he started out in traffic, and once we started doing this, we hit about 90,000 hits a month, pushing 100,000. 100% increase in traffic. The problem was that we're spending 15 hours a week in developing blogs, and there were, with 2-person team manually, we were spending 35 hours a week. So in just content development and syndicating out manually was 50 hours a week. Now for a small business, that's a person and a half, really 2 people. That's huge for a small business because most of them won't do that. So we decided that this wouldn't work. We developed the process, we developed the methodology, and we figured out how to grow it. But the problem was that it was way too much time. So we started to build the Spears technology platform, and we put in it a syndication platform so that you get a simplified user interface, so that instead of having, how many people have a StumbleUpon or a Dig account? One StumbleUpon, Dig, Technorati, Bebo, Bebo Plancast, Jakku, well, I'd say Google Buzz, but Google Buzz is going away, so we don't really care. The problem with using all those is that it takes time to syndicate it out to every place, and they all have their usefulness on hitting Google in different ways, because each one Google ranks different. And the more input you've got going into the Google spiders, the more you can push your Google results out, and you can literally dominate the first page of Google. With today's event, we put it out in our varying sources, and when you Google, I think it's NEIU, we take 7 of the first 10 spots on Google. That's what you're talking about, making sure you pop up on Google up to the top, right? Yeah, so that's what we did. So syndicating to multiple platforms is critical. The more platforms you can hit, the farther your message goes out, the more you dominate your digital presence, which is our index methodology. We found that a lot of people say, I can go out and do social media, and everyone can, and you can spend hours and hours and hours on it, but how do you know if you're getting anywhere? Anybody? How do you know if you're getting anywhere?
Depending on what kind of site you have, sometimes on the interface, you go back, there's ways where you can see your viewers. Like me, for example, I have a blog, so you can see how many people are looking at the blog.
Okay, so that's your blog presence. How do you know if your blog's going out to secondary and tertiary sites? How do you know if somebody's taking that blog and going out somewhere? So you have to come up and measure that presence. And the problem is that most people never develop an overall methodology for measuring growth. So that's what we did, was we said we take a snapshot baseline of what your presence is now, and if we know what that is, like we saw above, you can tell where it's growing. And if it's growing, then what by definition is happening? If you're picking up followers on different platforms, what's happening? They're seeing your message. They're opting in to watch you. And as a blogger, or if you're trying to find a job, or if you're trying to build audience for your business, people watching you is a good thing. I mean, how many of you would watch a television program that You never change content. You want, if you write a book, do you want 5 people to read the book, or do you want 500,000 to read the book? It's audience. So getting the message out, as well as being able to measure that growth, is important. Oops, okay. So what we did, this is a copy of one of our early alphas. And what ends up happening is that we built a very simple user interface so that a blog entry could come through. You can see where Daniel had a blog post, and I can literally just run down this set of buttons, dumping it out to multiple places. Now, with Mike and I doing this, when we first started doing the syndication, it was taking us 4 hours a day for one blog. We got it down so that in 1 hour a day, we could syndicate out 3 blogs. Realistically, you probably have an 8 or 10 person team syndicating out different blogs and get it all done in an hour. And then you've got 8 different audiences across multiple platforms going to a huge audience. Now, as Jim said, that one of the problems is there's a huge amount of info coming through. So whereas with Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook, you want to build huge amounts of audience. For your syndication peer, you don't want to. Your network, you don't want to. If you were going to syndicate out 1 message per day, how many messages could you send? How many blogs could you send out in a month? Huh?
30.
Yeah, 30 days. So therefore, you're realistically you're gonna post your blog, maybe somebody else's blog in a day. So realistically, you're not going to syndicate somebody else's blog or video if they're not going to syndicate yours, right? You know, if you got 80 people in your team, they're not going to do it. So we built it so that there are multiple ways of I can have the people that I'm connected to. We built it so that the people in my group, we're only going to have their blogs coming in, and the max you're going to be able to build a group to be is about 30 people, because these are people that are going to take your message and your message and your message and put it out. Okay. Over here, we figured out that if you're posting, I've been known to post a radio show, a video, and a couple of blogs a day, as well as interact with other people that I care about. If that's all going through your dashboard, man, that's a lot of data to watch. As Jim said, it can be overwhelming. So we started to build in filtering, advanced filtering. So that way, I know Mike just did a video. I can see from flipping down to the YouTube and just filtering out, so all I see are the YouTube videos. I've still got one digital interface, but I can slice and dice that data the way I want to go. So from here, we've reduced the amount of time to get your message out, because you only got one interface to go to, and you can filter it to cut that down. But that's not enough. Anybody remember why that's not enough? What are we missing here? We're missing a way to measure it. So what we did is we now have, this is a partial screen of it, but we now have in this alpha, we have over 50 data points that you can measure growth on. So I can watch my dig followers go up. I can watch my cloud score. I can check social mention, how many times it's mentioned out there. By the time we're done, we'll have 150 different metrics in there that you'll be able to measure, and you can't see it up at the top because it got cut off. This comes through real time, and then you'll be able to actually measure it, slice and dice it over varying periods of time. So therefore, I'd be able to go back and say, I started this 3 months ago, and my Twitter followers, I'm at 18,894. Actually, I think I found correctly 18,000. I was at 8,000 6 months ago, and I'm at 18,000 now. That tells me I'm doing something right. Okay. If I'm only going up 150, that tells me I'm doing something wrong. We pull in nice information like Daniel's LinkedIn profile, because, hey, if you're going to go pick up in the site, you're going to see who you want to build a syndication peer network with. You've got to be able to see it, see who's there, and we figured the LinkedIn profile was probably the best business profile. And then these are some of the groups that Daniel is in. He has his own peer group. There's the Mediavine group that he's a member of, and the Link Local Global. So these three are actually syndication peer groups, such that anybody in these groups will syndicate his message out, and he'll syndicate their message out. So by these three groups, he'll actually do, in theory, 3 blog posts a day if the members have done that. Index methodology. A little bit on that. We measure the effectiveness of an organization's website. You can drive off, and we've had this happen. We increased traffic by 300, 400, 500% to a website, and they've seen no conversion in sales. Why would that happen? You get 500% more traffic to a website, and they don't convert anything into sales. Why would that happen?
Quality of information is probably not good enough.
Crappy website. Exactly. You've got to have a good website. You've got, if the site's not good, it's like a bad TV program, all right, or a bad book. It doesn't get read, it doesn't get looked at. So even though people are going and looking at the cover, they're going, I'm not reading this. It's got to be useful to them. We look at the digital marketing activities. What are they doing? How well are they currently visible on the website or on the search engines? We look at Bing, and we look at Google, and we look at Alexa, and a couple of others. So it's not just one search engine's algorithm. We try to pull in as much information out there on the digital presence, because this is an organization's lifeblood. We look at what social media activities they're doing. Most of the time, it's appalling. It's really, really appalling. Mobile. We look at mobile. Now, for a small business, they're really not branding themselves within a mobile application, but when we developed this, we looked at it for not only small, but medium-sized, large size. Does anybody notice how many mobile applications are popping up for banks now? And it's not just the big banks, it's the mid-sized banks, okay? Getting into what I would call some of the small local banks are even coming out with mobile. So for certain industries, this is much, much larger than it is for others. And having a mobile device, because there are actually more mobile broadband connections than there are hardline broadband connections, which is kind of amazing. The results, okay? Once Mike and I said, enough of this, we're not going to do this manually anymore, we dropped the amount of time spent in developing content development from 15 hours a week down to about 5 hours a week. So in that same amount of time, if we spent that same amount of time doing content development, we'd be able to put out 300% more content, because we're not doing all of it ourselves. We're leveraging other people. We're taking Steve's blog, we're taking your blog, and putting that out so that we're not having to write stuff every day. We dropped from 35 hours a week to 8 hours per week. That's an effect of the ability to syndicate from one spot instead of going to dig, you gotta love going to all these platforms, but time is more important. And Daniel saw an increase, and this is without the ancillary or deals, offers that he didn't expect to get. He was just looking for tax accounting clients. And yet, because of his increased digital presence, he had other offers coming in. People wanting to take business endorsement landing pages in his site, affiliate marketing offers, things like that. So he saw actually a doubling or a 100% increase in his client base just from what we did there, which ain't too shabby. Last slide. So any questions?
This sounds really amazing, but I guess I'm confused about the daily mechanics of like how it works. So you're a small business owner, you have a website, you want to run a blog or Twitter or something, and like, how does this help you? Like, literally, you write the blog,
You write the blog.
or you do whatever you do.
You post your blog,
And how does?
and it's like you write the blog,
Okay.
and through the magic of RSS, does everyone know what RSS is? Really simple syndication. Through the magic of that, it pops into wherever we posted it, wherever you buried the feed in the site. So you bury it in your own profile,
Okay.
so that the people that you're friends with, your good connection, would see it. You'd also post it into the groups that you're part of. Okay, so you're part of the group, and each day you're going to go in and look at it, and you're going to see somebody's blog, and it's somebody else automatically slide in. So you post the blog, and it's somewhere else, whether it's on Tumblr or if you self-post it or something like that, WordPress, and it's going to slide in. So the people that you're connected with within the site, they see it, and then they go boom, 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 boom. Now, we are working on in the next alpha, we'll have actually scheduling in there, so that way, when you get far enough into this, you realize that there are certain times to post things that are better than other times. So we're working on building scheduling in there for the top 10 platforms, so that way, it's not necessarily, when you do it the one way, it's a shotgun blast. When you can start putting scheduling in there, then it's kind of a machine gun blast, and then you keep hitting over and over and over again. So you can literally hit one platform and then hit another platform and then another platform. Or I can schedule out multiple posts at varying times during the day.
I just have one more question.
Shoot.
You said adding content is really important. So I'm just curious, when you see websites kind of lose followers or gain them, like what exactly is happening? Is it just, person disinteresting, not posting at all, no changes, what is really going on?
What usually happens is if you've read everything on a website, how often are you going to go back to that website and reread it?
Yeah.
And that's what happens with Google is the Google spiders. If they when they come back, the Google spiders will come down, check your website for content, and then after a certain point in time, they'll come back again. And if they don't see changed content there, then they'll wait even longer to come back. Conversely, you post something and the Google spiders come down and check it, and they come back and they see content's already changed the next time, then it's a shorter interval before they come back. So now what ends up happening is that the more content you put on your site, then the more often the Google and the other spiders come and rank that site higher up in the search engine. So that's how it helps search engines. What we found though is that how often, you said you have a blog, how often do you post?
I try to do it every day.
So you're posting every day.
Try to.
Okay.
Usually ends up being every other day.
Okay.
Because it's hard to get what I want to put out there, and I want to put significant information. I just don't want to put nothing out there.
You don't want to put garbage out
Right.
there. Okay. So what do you write on?
Fashion
Okay.
and styling, and like I do photo shoots and stuff, so I put whatever I've done or things that I'm interested in or stuff that's coming up. So like for example, Halloween's around the corner, so like today I'm putting up stuff last minute ways of putting a costume together or whatever.
Okay. So she's using it for business. I'm assuming that's the reason you blog is for business. Okay. So and she's a one-person site, right?
Yes.
All right. So if you're not doing that, if you're doing something like tax accounting, or you're doing something like you're a lawyer, or an engineer, or, God forbid, an insurance salesman. Did I just offend anybody? Oh, good. I love to offend insurance salesmen. You're not going to have the change in content like that. All right. So what do you do, not to get people to your website, but to keep people in social media? Because I can tell you, when you have 2,000 people in your LinkedIn, that stream you see goes by incredibly fast. Within my LinkedIn desktop, I see maybe 2 hours worth. Actually, I think it's down to about an hour's worth because I've got so many people posting. How do you not get lost in that? I couldn't put out a blog every hour. Okay, I couldn't even put a status update out every hour. But if I have other people, if I've got other people's content to put out, then guess what? My name slides across their dashboard, and they see a useful piece of content. Psychologically, they say, hey, Fred found something that was good. Think about it. If you look at a news broadcast, they're not going out and creating the news, they're reporting that news. A radio disc jockey doesn't play all his music. He doesn't play any of his music. He plays somebody else's stuff. All right, so there is a psychological benefit that if I can hand you 5 pieces or 5 white papers. I may have written one of them, but if you find usefulness out of the other 4, you think Fred gave me good information. Fred is a person to listen to. He's an information resource. So I want to watch whatever he says. Hence why we want to syndicate other people's message. Now, part of it is if you're always talking about yourself, yeah, you shook your head. If you're always talking about yourself, people are going to shut you out. Because social media, by definition, is about interaction. However, if I'm putting other people's information out, I'm already interacting. And it's in a much wider range than what I could hope to, because, yeah, I could talk to you about social media all through the day. Mike's had to deal with it from time to time. And you're going to tune out. But if I'm jumping from topic to topic to topic on things, I mean, when you go to class, if you're taking a full load of classes, you're not hearing necessarily about the same thing. You're hearing about different topics. Otherwise, you would go to sleep. There's a reason why a class is normally only about 50 minutes long. If they talk to you about the same topic for more than 50 minutes, you would go to sleep, or you would jab your eyes on the way I am a tax accountant. Other question? Did that answer it? What else? Gotta be something else. It can't be that.
So how do you get signed up?
Well, right now we're in alpha. There are people that we are starting to put in, specified people. So if you're really, really interested, give me a card, and as we start to open them up, we'll put you in. Right now, we've been hitting some of the chambers of commerce, nonprofits, associations, because they all need some serious social media help. There's some definite bloggers that we're picking up, and some small businesses.
So can we get an alpha group of NEIU entrepreneurs?
Probably. Jim can probably work that out.
You work that out? Okay.
That's all I got. Unless Jim's got something else to say.